I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is the Doctor's Guide podcast, raw and unfiltered, bringing to you some of the solutions that you are looking for but just couldn't find anywhere else. And how can I be so bold? Well, clearly there's somebody out there this is going to benefit, and a lot of other people won't even want to listen because they don't need this. And that's the whole point, right? What is it that you need in your life to optimize your health? And that is a matter of discovery. And so you've just like going to the Chinese buffet, right? You're not going to try everything because you'll probably end up being super sick, and it's probably not a good thing anyhow. But the truth of the matter is dipping your toe into different, pools of water to figure out what's right for you. And so my hope is, as you've been listening to all these podcasts with all these amazing guests, with all these amazingly different challenges, that you'll resonate with something today that will absolutely support you in whatever way it needs to. Because here's the challenge that I find with so much information out there, with all this, what I call advanced tech and expensive tech, and I'm confused tech, and you're buying this stuff that doesn't work at all because you have not done the right intelligent process to figure out, to discern if this is really right for you. And so this is what the show is all about. We're not selling a product, we're not hyper promoting a person, but we're just simply sharing with you that process, that decision-making process that's the same for everyone. It should be, at least. I mean, that's how things have been invented over the years. And you think of all these amazing inventions, and the same thing happens all the time. It's the process of creating that to happen. And that's what we share with you today. So listen in, tune in, get triggered or not, find something useful, which anyone can, and be open to discover some new things. So how do we do that today? Well, through role playing. And so one of my amazing guests will present with a problem, and then the other will act as a guide. And the issue here is this, is that we only got 6 minutes to do this. So not a lot of time to do complete resolution, but at least you get the idea. You may make a resemblance for yourself, or you might see yourself in this problem, in this challenge. You may see somebody else in this challenge, and then you can relate to that or witness yourself. And that's the whole idea. And if you get triggered, that's a good thing, because that also indicates that that's some of the work that you need to be doing. Because the truth is, we don't want to be triggered. We don't want to be frustrated, angry, have a negative emotion, because that is simply a signal, per Byron Katie. If you haven't heard her, just check her out. She's amazing. That the pain within is the signal for our work to do. And those are the triggers. So after that, the role play, what we'll do is we'll unpack it. So my hope is that you get some distinction, micro distinction, if that's what it is, and some action steps that you can take to help you. So before we do the role play, we'll have each of the amazing guests introduce themselves just very briefly, who they are, what they do, maybe a fun fact about them. We'll dive into that 6-minute role play, and then we'll unpack it for another 10 or 15 minutes. And then we'll get the information as to how you can find them. So, Jana, I'm going to have you introduce yourself first. Who are you? Fun fact about yourself. And then we'll go with Cindy. And I do believe you are the one presenting with a problem today.
Jana.
Yeah, Jana, you go first.
Yeah,
Who are
okay.
you? Fun fact about you. Then Cindy. And then we'll dive into the role play.
Okay. So hello, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Jana Roemer. I live in this sweet little mountain town up in Canada. I'm obsessed with the nature of the mind, the contemplation of frequency as the language of creator and source. And I work with yoga nidra and astrology and really the electromagnetic body. That's me in a nutshell.
Cindy?
My name is Dr. Cindy Starke, and I live in Gainesville, Georgia. And one thing that I think is one of the most fascinating things about myself is that I came from a family of hairdressers and electricians. Every woman is in the hair industry, and every man is at construction or electrician. And through some unfortunate events that happened to me in my teenage years, I knew I had to get away from that, and it was not where my life was going in this lifetime. And so I was the first person to go to college, and then I ended up getting an MD and a PhD in genetics. And I have been fascinated with the human will and just our ability to carve our own path in our life despite what generational trauma that we had or any kind of generational setbacks or roadblocks. I just really, really love helping people realize that whatever they want to do in this life, they can. It doesn't matter who they were or where they came from.
And I love that you share that with us today, Cindy, because here's the truth. A lot of people are playing the victim role, the victim card, and I get it. It's basically because they have a sense of hopelessness, helplessness. They don't have a guide. They don't have anybody to support them, to show them that there's a better way. And not everyone, gets that door open to them. And full transparency for myself, I trained for 17 years before I became a plastic and reconstructive surgeon. And I read the Greek classics. I speak 4 languages. I grew up in 5 different countries. And there was something massively missing out of my life after I graduated. And I couldn't figure it out until I fell into the world of personal development, quite against my will, by the way, because I thought, what's this crazy dude? He's 6'6" with big teeth, big hands, called Tony Robbins. What's he going to teach me? He sounds like a used car salesman. Well, the truth of the matter, he's quite the opposite, and really opened the realm of self actualization, personal development. And as Cindy is talking about, yes, life can be very challenging for many, many, many people out there, but there is a path forward. And Cindy found that. And she is an amazing person then to connect with, to help you overcome some of your personal challenges simply because of what she does. So we'll talk more about that later, because Jana also has amazing skills that everybody should get access to. But let's dive into the role play today. Jana, you got a problem. Go
I
ahead.
got a problem.
Let's
All
start.
right. So this past summer, I was my mother's primary caregiver on her walk to her last breath. And what she had was a clear cell sarcoma ovarian cancer that's quite rare and doesn't present any symptoms until it's too late typically. And so the fatality rate of this ovarian cancer is extremely high and extremely quick. And when I was cleaning out her stuff, I discovered that the first issue with her ovaries was actually at the age that I am now, where she had cysts and they burst. And I remember my mom always took a drug called Ponstan. I don't know if it's called the same in the US, but it was basically her cramps were so bad that she was taking like prescription level painkillers monthly over her cycle. And so the concern that I bring forward today is I don't want to repeat that pattern. And I know that oftentimes things, you said you study genetics, and I want to get really clear on what I can do for my ovarian and my uterine health and my overall hormonal health so that I'm, keeping myself healthy, but also like what are signs that I can look for, and things that I can do on the preventative side to make sure that I don't suffer the same fate. She was only 70. She was quite young. I think that's young in how I foresee my life going.
Yeah, well, I don't know with that particular cancer if it is genetic.
Mm.
So, I am not an OBGYN doctor. I would definitely, I would have to do some research and see if that's genetic, first of all, and if there's any kind of testing that you can have, so that you can make sure that you are healthy. And I would say, just in general, without knowing anything specifically about that cancer, and I'm so sorry that you lost your mom last summer and at such a young age. That's extremely young. Um, but what I really tell all my patients and my kids too is just to really be in touch with their own bodies. And our body, there's a wonderful book called The Body Keeps the Score. And your body is giving you signals all the time. And if you just get so busy, and I know you have several kids, I can't remember, do you have 2 or 3?
Too.
Oh, 2. It seems like you have 3 because they're very active. But, when you get so busy into, being a wife and being a mom and doing all the things, and you're not listening to those signals that your body has given you that something's wrong, then that's when things can happen. And it sounds like your mom is kind of like my mom, where back in the 60s, they just took prescription medicines for nerves and cramps. And, I learned recently my mom was on Valium while she was pregnant with us because it was just so stressful to be, you know, a mom of three and being pregnant. And so I think that nowadays, Jana, doctors aren't, they're not, you're not going to be on prescription, cramp medicine. You are so in tune to your body that if you talk to your doctor and let them know if something's going on, they can do surveillance screening, whether that's, sorry, this that sunlight's in my face like that. Surveillance screening, whether it's an ultrasound or if it's a pap smear or CAT scans, whatever they need to do to make sure that you're healthy. But just keep listening to your body and pay attention to what it's telling you, because and don't mask anything with medicine.
Thank you.
Awesome. So as we wrap up, let me ask Jana, what was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was great. I think listening to the body is the number one most important thing in general.
And context wise about your mom?
Context about my mom?
Yep.
Yeah, that is one pattern that I wouldn't repeat, like taking pharmaceutical medicine for pain. I'm more of like, what's underneath? Why is it happening? And how can we rearrange so the pain is leaving? I think that's really great.
Yeah, and I
advice.
think it's important for people to recognize that, patterns repeat themselves. And so to be aware, I mean, that's basically a signal that people can pay attention to, is like, oh, well, maybe that's something I should be concerned about. So I think having that experience is key. Cindy, what was that all about for you?
Just listening to to Jana telling me about her mom having these really bad cramps and taking prescription medicines for cramps. I'm trying to even imagine what that would be, in the medicine that I know right now. But it just lets me know that women suffer a lot, especially with their menstrual symptoms, and we mask a lot of problems. And if that was the first sign that Jana's mom had, I just wonder,
Yeah.
if this could have gotten caught earlier, and we could still have that lovely woman on this earth, because she seems like she was an amazing person.
Well, if you look at her daughter, I mean, she must be, right? Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of things to unpack here, and I know we don't have a lot of time, and I certainly want to give you some time on the mic as well, in addition to what I want to share. But first of all, what you just said there, Cindy, about women just tolerating so much, pretty much it's sort of like by the age of 30, their life is over because they're taking care of everybody else. And this is unfortunate. This is just not right. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but it's just not right, because as women and as a force of nature that you are, and nurturing, and all parts of you, it's so important that that gets recognized and that gets taken care of. So the woman inside of you never gets forgotten. The other part too, which I think is really important, is and very, very true, what people also then forget about themselves. And I just saw this quote the other day, is and you saw this man with a child on his shoulders, and says, you'll do everything you need to do to save your child, but you won't do anything for your own health. And so the key here then is you got to pay attention to those signals. Your body is a very complex and very intelligent system. That's why on my previous podcast or radio show, Prescription for Your Transformation, I talk about tapping into your authentic genius, but also tapping into the brain intelligence, the body intelligence, and the energy intelligence. And so if we just tapped into that intelligence, we can just correct and rebalance, whatever's out of balance. But the interesting thing is, and this is so relevant with my mission, and that is simply to state the following facts: that you no longer have an excuse to be sick. All the technology, all the information, all the resources, all the people are out there right now. The other thing is that a vision I've had for the last 20 years, and probably longer than that, I just didn't know about it. But my vision of the future doctor is one that's not going to be prescribing drugs or performing surgery, because once again, we've got that innate intelligence within us that as long as we know that language, we can reprogram ourselves. But here's the other thing, and this is where so many people just simply get it wrong, is that yes, we have DNA, we've got our genetics, it's not our destiny. However, there are so many environmental factors, and that's a study of epigenetics, that determines the expression of our DNA, which then results into things like cancer. And so whilst a lot of people are afraid to get their DNA profile, the genetic profile, for lots of different reasons, which are unfortunately not accurate for them, because the truth is, you get that information, you can pave a roadmap that will absolutely support you moving forward in your life. And that's giving you all the information that you need to make the best decisions for yourself. And I know we're not really promoting, products here, but there is one company out there that is a complete paradigm shift. There'll be a link with this show later on, but that will absolutely enlighten you as to what your risks are, but also gives you very actionable steps, unlike any other company. And so definitely, reach out to me. You've got more information regarding that, because the truth is only 1.5% of all genetics is strictly genetic. The rest is all environmental and other factors, and you have the ability. And so my final point that I want to share, and again, this is the driver of what it is that I do. We spend 1/5 of our GDP, which is $4 trillion. Actually, it's more than that now, on healthcare, when 90% is chronic illness and mental health, all of which is predictable and preventable. And that's why the work that you guys are doing, to help reverse disease, to create harmony within, to find better solution and resources to optimize your health is so critically important. But once again, that's why we have this podcast, to give you the enlightenment to say, yes, there's hope, there's a process, there's clarity, there's a path forward because of people like you. I want to hand over the mic. I spoke a little longer than I normally do, but I thought this was really relevant for this particular topic. Jana, what else would you like to share? Or Cindy, for that matter.
Well, I was just going to say epigenetics definitely determines what happens with your genes. And I often tell people at the bedside, just because you have this genetic predisposition doesn't mean that you're fated to have this disease. There's so many things you can do in your life. Some people I don't necessarily like this phrase, but they say that the genes are um, the gun, but then what you do with your life is shooting. So it's like, just because you
No,
have
it's your DNA is the gun, your finger is the trigger, and your finger
yeah,
is your lifestyle. Your
yeah,
lifestyle is the finger on the trigger.
yeah. So there's just so many. I just want to encourage people that no matter what it is that runs in your family, that you don't have to succumb to that. That there are so many things you can do to keep yourself from having those genes expressed. Jana.
Yep.
Yeah, I find it really interesting. I was actually raised, my mom was very not into pharmaceuticals. That was one of her things. And this was the one thing that she did take. And when we were doing her cancer, like her whole cancer journey, she sought alternative forms of medicine. She was like, I'm not doing chemo, I'm not doing radiation, I want to do something different. And her original 6 to 12 week diagnosis turned into almost 4 years, 3.5, almost 4 years. A big part because of her will to live. And oddly enough, she ended up taking one pharmaceutical in the process that perforated her large intestine. And so for her, the last 2.5 years of her life, she was taking nutrient bags. And so for her, the big lesson was like going against her values and her morals of always using, like, I never went to doctors. That wasn't what she did. Yet it was like the 2 times that she made that decision maybe proved her right.
Mm.
And
Unfortunately,
let me just be really clear. I mean, this is not a criticism of the medical profession. The truth of the matter is that these hardworking souls are trying to do the best with the resources that they have. still, controlled in many different ways, in the ways that perhaps don't serve them, but that's a completely different issue. But there is a definite place with conventional medicine in so many different ways. And that's why, I like to say this: I am lovingly disrupting the current model of healthcare by democratizing a health model that allows every stakeholder to have a seat at the table, and where everybody wins. And because that's the key. And it's really more about offering more choices to people. And I'm currently working on very awesome things where everybody gets to win, including, the politicians, the pharmaceutical companies, but most importantly, the consumer, but also those amazing individuals like Jana out there that are not getting enough exposure with the magic that they deliver. Look, at the end of the day, we can all work together, we can all win, and that's what it's about. And for me, it's about elevating the overall health vibration of our communities, not only in this country, but worldwide. And it's not about me, but it's about everyone. And it's good for everyone. So
Yeah.
with that, final words with each of you. We'll start off with Cindy. And how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at drcindystark.com, and Stark has an E on the end. And also on Instagram, dr.cindy.stark. And it is just it's just really a passion of mine and my honor and privilege to help anyone who has something in their self that's kind of holding themselves back, or a disease that they say there's it's running in my family. What can I do to prevent this from coming into my life? Just for me to help hold your hand and guide you through that process of living the life that you really want to live.
I love it. Jana?
Yes, thank you. I just want to add on to it. She did not seek doctors. She sought doctors that were asking different questions and that
Oh.
were experimenting with alternate pathways to heal. And so I hope that I wanted just to clarify that I'm not poo-pooing, because there is definitely a place for all of it.
Yes.
But yeah, you can find me on my website, janaroemer.com, Instagram, Jana_Roemer. And I'm also on an app called Insight Timer, where you can access free meditations. It's a free download. And I have quite a few yoga nidras and stuff on there as well, if you want to experience practice.
I love it.
Thank you.
And the truth is this, is that there is a menu that's applicable for everyone to optimize the health, no different than going to a Chinese buffet, or even, one of those amazing brunches where there's so much food, there's no way you can eat all of it. You just have to pick and choose what's right for you. And that's also my key message. I very much believe in allopathic medicine in every way that it's appropriately applicable. And realize that there's other choices, but not as an alternative. And I just don't like that word, not an alternative. It's working in tandem. And so that's the narrative that I'm sharing on my podcast and everywhere else, is that the conversation needs to change simply in the form of responsibility, root cause, and data, and then understanding how we can best approach that, where it's not siloed in a specific system, but where it's unified. It's a unified approach with all stakeholders playing a part. And quite frankly, I think the person most eligible or appropriate to be the guide for any person are those allopathically trained doctors who have an open mind to all sorts of other things, and also willing to collaborate with other experts in those areas where they can't, because nowadays we cannot do it alone. So I just want to reframe that once again, having our doctors understanding that we need to embrace other options as well, in tandem, not as a alternative and not as a replacement, but in tandem with everything else. And it's really about addressing the potential of the body to restore form and function. The body has that potential. The body has all these healing resources and healing systems within it that when they're overwhelmed and they're not working, we just have to figure out how that's done. I want to thank you both for this. Once again, a beautiful interplay between two amazing individuals. My name is Dr. Bart Rademaker. This is the Doctor's Guide podcast, raw and unfiltered. and you decide what's right for you. And if it's not right for you, that's perfectly fine. My hope is by listening and tuning in that you will discover certain things that may be applicable to you. As I've learned over the last 25 years in personal development, I'm always learning something new. And that's the beautiful thing about this process, is that one day you will come across something that will create the breakthrough that you're looking for. And that is because I've got all these amazing people on this podcast. Once again, I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and I will be back.